And we're live. Well, hello everyone. It's nice to be here and see you for our live stream of the Assassin's Creed Valhalla Discovery Tour. First of all, I guess my name is Miranda. I am a manager at the Jorvik Viking Center, and I also host a podcast with Lucas, who I'll let introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Lucas. So I am co-host with Miranda of that Jorvik Viking Thing podcast, and I am also one of the Vikings at the Jorvik Viking Centre too. And we are joined today by a very special guest, Maxime Durand, who is the World Design Director at Ubisoft Montreal.
Hi everyone, and also a listener to the podcast.
Oh, wonderful!
Brilliant! I love it. I love it. And so we will be doing a pretty good look at Jorvik today. So if you guys are ready, I think we can go ahead and start playing.
I'm ready, yeah. Excited.
Right.
Brilliant. So I think
Here we are on the River Ouse. So we are on the River Ouse, which is the main river of the city of York, or the city of Jorvik, of course, as it was known in the Viking Age. We tend to imagine that Viking ships sort of, crash into the beaches and arrive on England, but actually the rivers they're like the highways, the motorways of the Viking world. So today when you go on the river in York, you see people eating ice creams and sipping coffees and drinking beer. It was a dock full of ships coming from all over the Viking world. So this would not be an unusual sight, what you can see here now. So I believe we're approaching from the east, aren't we, here at the moment?
I believe so, yeah. So I just turned around and I'm going to try and find a dock. Although you said the bit about the ice creams, although, I mean, at the moment, it's completely full of water, so I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere to eat an ice cream at the moment.
Yeah. So here we are in the city of Jorvik.
All right.
Well done. You did not sink your boat, Miranda.
I know, just about. But I was gonna say for anyone who might judge my game playing ability, I was just telling these guys that before this I had only ever played Animal Crossing. So. All right. So Lucas, do you want to direct me? I'm going to, I believe.
So I think if you want to go forward, if you follow, not that one. Sorry, the other one.
Sorry.
I think there was a lag at my end. So we're going to be following one of the missions, or storylines, I suppose, of the Assassin's Creed Discovery Tour. So within the Discovery Tour, there's a storyline to follow, and for one of the chapters takes place within the city of Jorvik. So we're going to be following that one today and taking a look at all the things it presents us with. There is a chat function here available for viewers, so please feel free to type away in there. If you've got any questions, we'll try and keep an eye on that as well. So I believe we're now on the Ouse Bridge, and somewhere around here we can start the chapter storyline.
Yeah, I think Miranda was so excited about playing that she already started the quest.
Did I?
Oh. So
my bad.
We have two options now.
Okay.
Which is that you can open the menu and we can start the quest anew. So that could help us if you browse into the quest menu, which is the next one, and then if you reset.
Brilliant.
Yes.
And yes, I want to reset. Yes.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
And then we'll join the quest from the beginning.
Oh, brilliant. And we get a beautiful kind of like overlook of the city as well, which is brilliant.
Wonderful. So we follow the character Thorstein Silvertongue in this particular chapter. He's one of the main characters within the Discovery Tour. He and his wife Gunhild have migrated from Norway and they have settled the city of Jorvik. So they were once raiders, now they've settled down and become traders. And there they are.
Clear for this afternoon.
So,
it's a shame they did not marry at dawn.
It's worth pointing out it's the 9th century during this particular chapter we're looking at here. Slightly earlier than what we depict at Jorvik Viking Centre. We depict Jorvik as it would be a few generations after this, during the middle of the 10th century.
You should not let Trig labor alone too long.
Although, am I right in thinking, Lucas, that we did find stuff from the 9th century during the Coppergate dig?
Definitely, yeah. So on excavation sites in York, we have found Viking Age objects, archaeology, or Anglo-Scandinavian archaeology, spanning from around the middle of the 9th century. So the Vikings are arriving about 20 years or so before this scene that we can see here, through to the mid 11th century, when the Normans turn up and they do what Normans do.
Tomorrow then, as well.
Yeah, Thorstein and Gunhilda have been in England for quite some years at the moment of the beginning of this quest, and the journey that we're seeing them through the Discover Tour is a journey that takes place for about 20 years from their original idea of going to England for the first time, or at least Thorstein's idea, and then how that idea evolved and how from the concept of raiding, then it transformed into that idea of settling and adhering to the local culture.
I must say they've aged very well since chapter 1. Amazing skincare regime.
So Lucas, where should I go from here?
So I believe we want to head to Coppergate Market.
Brilliant.
Which is
I believe this way, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Excellent.
this is the Ouse Bridge. If anyone's familiar with York, the Ouse Bridge is the old bridge right in the middle of York city centre. One side is where you'll find High Ousegate and Coppergate. The other side is Micklegate. And here we are on Coppergate Markets.
Looks a little bit different to now. I think there's a Cafe Nero, like right about here, usually.
There is, yeah. And also in this depiction, you can see the sky as well. That's amazing. Our depiction is underground, so it's a little bit darker than this one.
Yeah, with lights and things above, usually.
Yeah. I love the bunting. Is it Eric Bloodaxe's Jubilee or something?
I think they wanted to celebrate Yule.
Ah, that's perfect.
Yes.
This is what they had in mind when they put all of these decorations over there.
Oh, that's
There's some
fun.
Yule goats here and there, aren't there, I believe? Yeah, great.
I love the parallel between Eric Bloodaxe's Jubilee and I think the Jubilee we've got for the Queen in a couple of months. Hopefully they put up similar bunting. Am I right in thinking that there is somebody around here where I think I can weave or something, can't I? Is it this way? Here it is.
Activities we can do on the street. You can interact with all sorts of objects.
This is my favorite because we have a loom on the ride, don't we, Lucas? Was that based on an actual find?
Yes, so we have found weaving equipment across pretty much every single household on the Coppergate Excavation. So it looks like most families are probably making their own fabric at home. Probably only importing the most luxurious and exotic things like silks, perhaps. And yeah, you can see a loom inside one of the houses on our ride. And there we go, Thorstein's having a go at it there. Real men should never be afraid of a bit of textile work.
Well, exactly.
I mean, he's seen his wife work on the loom for quite some times at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
She comes from a family where there's a big tradition of weaving. They were shepherds as well, so he's probably familiar with it. He's probably also seen her weave the sail that they used to sail to England with.
Oh, that's a good point. And yeah, I mean, a lot of work would have gone into that sort of thing. So he probably is much more skilled at it than I would ever hope to be.
But his main skill is how he talks.
Yes, of course.
Hence
Silver
his
tongue.
name.
Brilliant. All right, what else should we have a look at, guys?
So shall we can either explore Coppergate a bit more, or we could follow the storyline a bit.
Yeah, am I meant to head to the docks, I think, aren't I?
Yes. I believe Trig is waiting for us down there.
Brilliant. Let's head that away.
We'll come back to Coppergate, I think, shortly. I love the giant statues that welcome you as you get to Coppergate as well. I wish we found those on the dig.
I know, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately they were made of wood and hence they decomposed.
Of course,
we could never find them. But yeah, everything in the game is quite exaggerated in terms of heights, in terms of widths. Streets are sometimes bigger than real life.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, if we're gonna use the horse, for instance, we can do that a bit later on. But when we use the horse in the game, well, it has to fit. But obviously, some of these streets, or many of these streets, probably have been much narrower and not as straight as well.
Yeah, so I guess you've got to kind of exaggerate some things for gameplay purposes, don't you? To make certain areas look distinct compared to others, too. Things like that.
Definitely,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
Big statues, they stand a point. Like this is a Norse statue.
Yeah.
Heavy
or Nordic
labor
god.
before getting married. Your bride won't
So
want
yeah,
to seal the
Trig
covenant with a kiss.
is the former slave to Thorstein and Gunhilda, but by that point he's been freed for
Give you
about
your
a decade.
freedom and
He
you
had the
see fit
choice
to order me around.
to come to England
You're
with them.
lucky I've
All
no
right.
expedition
Because
to
he'd been
tempt you with.
long story short, he'd been a slave for debts from his family, and then once the debt had been paid, he has been freed. But
I've never dared
he found
ask
Thorstein
what
was
drew you
a great person
I
to
know
be
there are
associated
many
with,
fine
and so he
Norse
left
women
to England.
devastated
and
That's
Gunhilda.
That's fair. There probably would have been quite a lot of opportunity for someone in England as well.
There's some parallels there with slaves and some of the Icelandic sagas, aren't there? They come with their Viking owners effectively to Iceland, but then eventually become freed and set up families of their own in Iceland, and some become quite big saga characters.
You're doubly
And yeah,
blessed.
and then he was Thrigg was just saying that he actually found a wife, and that today is the day
Your
that they're
hard work made me a
getting
rich
married.
man.
And it's an Anglo-Saxon wife, scandalous.
All right.
If you get maybe back to the counter, there we go. Yeah, just if you carry it, I think back behind the
Oh.
counter.
Okay.
Yeah, Thorstein is very close to his purse, and he wants to make sure that his gold is in the
Wait,
right
why
place.
am I?
So I suppose Trig and
back
his
here.
bride, they're the first of the Anglo-Scandinavians, effectively. Our depiction of Jorvik on the right at the Jorvik Centre is effectively showing the grandchildren or great-grandchildren of marriages like Trig's and his wife, where the Anglo-Scandinavians are more firmly established. But here it's a little bit controversial.
Okay, nobody laughed, but I have no idea how to put this box down. There we go.
A little clueless right now.
I think that's what I meant to do. Okay, carry the new wares to York. I see. All right.
Are you donating them to a different trader?
Yes, yes,
How
obviously.
generous of you.
No,
Alright.
you were at the right spot,
Am I?
Miranda.
Yeah.
I actually don't know why he doesn't want to get to his stall.
I know.
I mean, he usually likes to sell things and makes a good profit out of it.
Let's put carry the new. It's me. I'm telling you, you don't.
You.
There's very few boxes to carry in Animal Crossing.
Otherwise, maybe Thorstein wants to go on a trip down York, and maybe he can come later to
Yeah,
to
maybe
the
we'll
stall.
explore Coppergate a bit more.
All right.
Let's do that. We'll leave your box. I'm sure nobody will steal it.
The city is so vast in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and the way it's depicted also in the Discovery Tour. I mean, we could go on for days talking about it.
Definitely.
So no worries there. So right now,
The cats are my favorite. We've got loads of cats on the ride.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have found the skeletal remains of cats on sites like Coppergate, and of course, cats do pop up in Norse mythology as well, with Freya associated particularly with them.
All right. What else should we have a look at Coppergate? Where's the
Oh.
Quernstone? That's another favorite of mine.
There's a couple scattered about, I think. Yeah. One of the things you can interact with. So there's quite a few different households and market stalls on the streets, some of which parallel the ones we have on our ride quite nicely as well. The ones that we depict at Jorvik Viking Centre, they correspond with the archaeology of each particular household that were found, and they've done a pretty good job on the game of matching those up. The Quernstone's a giant donut, if that helps, Miranda.
I know, but where is it? I'm sure.
I think it's in the front garden of one of the houses. So you'll notice the architecture we have here is mainly made of wood. That's the principal material the Vikings are working with. A succession of different styles of houses have been found in York. But there are also some Roman buildings, I think, scattered throughout York, aren't there, too?
There are. My favorite, and Maxime, hopefully you can enlighten us a little bit on this, is there's a Colosseum. So
yeah, it's quite surprising on the northern side of the river. And I think that was one of the very interesting aspects for the team to represent the Roman presence of Eboracum, which is the Roman name for the location. But as far as I'm aware of, the Romans were settled mostly in the north part of the river, whereas the Viking settlers mostly settled on the southern part of the city. And then I think both were merged, and eventually the Viking presence grew so big that the city that became Jorvik and later York just used both sides simultaneously. But yes, that huge amphitheater, that huge Colosseum that we can find on the other side, really was something that the team wanted to highlight in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because for the time period, there are three big cities that the game represented, which are London and Winchester. And the the funny, interesting aspect. I'm sorry. The team wanted for Jorvik to look the richest out of Winchester and London for the time period, and so using a Colosseum or an amphitheater to highlight the richness of the city was a way to, let's say, to cheat just a little bit to make the city grander. But this is the same kind of process that we'll see with a lot of the monuments in the city, where they are sometimes much higher than they would have been in the time period, or the architecture is from a later time period in some cases, like the Minster that we can have a look at after that.
Oh yeah, we love the Minster in this one. Yeah.
I love the Minster, but also, can I get a round of applause for the fact that I figured out the box?
Well done.
I know, right? Okay, now
You are now officially a Viking trader.
Apparently, yes.
He just wanted a quick stroll through the Coppergate.
The depiction of the amphitheatre is quite interesting, because we're fairly certain there should be an amphitheatre or colosseum somewhere in York. We just have no idea where it actually would be.
Well, I talked to Graham Harris from the Roman Baths Museum on a recent podcast episode, and I mean, we've only dug up around 1% of all of Roman York. You know, we have barely scratched the surface. So we know that there was probably an amphitheater somewhere, but you know, it's probably just not in the parts that we're digging just yet, you know?
We do have gladiator skeletons, definitely, from
We
one of our dig
do.
sites. Yeah, one's got a sort of slash mark from something like a bear or a tiger.
Well, yeah, and I think...
the Colosseum, right?
Yeah.
Easy day fighting a bear at the Colosseum.
Obviously, yeah. I think
Monday.
it's got like, I think it's like bite marks on his pelvis or something, and then it
Yeah,
shows
that's
that it would have, you know, saluted, I think he survived it. Oh, wait,
Do you have anything
I've just seen a question about the garb depicted in game. Does it relate to Coppergate finds? Some material was found and some people try to recreate them. So I'd say there's a bit of a mixture here from what I've seen. I think the main characters, it's fair to say, have some quite kind of cool, exaggerated outfits. But a lot of the background characters, I think, are pretty accurate. We see some nice sort of tortoiseshell brooches and apron dresses the women are wearing, the woolen tunic and trousers for the men.
Definitely, it's a typical process in video game making, where most of the main characters or the important storyline characters have distinctive marks, which is always going to portray them a little differently from the rest of the crowd, which is going to be more on the accurate side.
Oh, and here's Bjorn. We don't like Bjorn.
Yeah, so for those who are joining and who haven't seen the other quests before, so we have a mixed feeling and a weird story with Bjorn, who also sailed from Norway, and he had some feuds with Thorstein, who always, just like Julius Caesar, I'd say he always forgave him.
Well, Lucas and I, last time we were playing, we really like that Bjorn keeps saying about like his lack of money and how hard up he is, but look at those arm rings. My God.
Bjorn, loosen the strings of the change purse a little.
All right, visit the rune carver. That's this thing.
Okay, yes. So this is over at Forseti's Rest, I believe.
So was there much archaeological evidence for rune stones in York?
So in York, I'm not aware of anything runic that's been found. The closest that we have, there was a single pendant from Coppergate, which looks a bit like it's got runes on it, but they don't make any sense whatsoever. It's a little bit like if you gave me a pen and said, write something in Japanese. I could make something that looks like it might be Japanese, but it won't be Japanese at all.
Well,
So probably an illiterate person.
we had during the live talk about the Coppergate helmet the other day. One of our speakers was saying something about how the inscription on the top of the helmet, like the person who made it clearly didn't know what it said, and so they transcribed it backwards, almost like mirror writing. So I guess, you know, a similar thing would have applied there, like, oh, this person wanted to make it look like there was writing on it, and, you know, most people wouldn't actually know any better.
So would that be called pseudo-runic?
Hello.
I guess so, yeah.
Commemorate many years of happiness and success.
No, is it Steinun, I think this woman here, which is a good name. It means stone love, I think, so got a good job.
Show me.
First, you will need to select the type of
Yeah,
stone.
we had a lot of fun in naming many of the characters.
I'll go
Actually,
with limestone.
the name of the slave is
Unusual
Trig,
choice, but no
which
less
means
versatile.
faithful.
It will draw the attention you seek,
So
to be sure.
yeah, we
Is that the
enjoyed
type of
that
stone
moment
you
too,
want?
of naming them with old names coming from sagas and from runic texts as well.
Yes. it
Actually,
is.
talking of
Then
runic
let us
text,
continue.
there's one
Now you will need to choose
that
what
we're
you
gonna
want
see
engraved on your rune stone.
here, and these are all taken from real runic texts. So like something romantic, classical, or cheeky are all real translations from a modern day
Gunhilda loved
perspective.
me.
Yeah, I think I recognise some of these.
Since she loves you still, it must be
They want
some
the
love.
Bergen runes potentially.
Is
I
this the
think
inscription you want?
possibly. Yeah.
Yes.
There's the
Um,
classic one.
It's,
which
it's,
is
it's, it's
Guinea.
interesting. It's interesting because there are the
All
the
that
information that
remains
we
is to
find on many of
confirm
the
the
runes are
design you would
basically
like me to
family
carve for you.
stories or trip stories, and they're very, very personal.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat says, is there any history that we know about for Forseti's Rest?
So I think for Seti's Rest, it's in the game. It's depicted roughly on the location where Clifford's Tower and York
This looks like
Castle
a
would have
nice
once stood.
easy
Clifford's
rune
Tower
stone.
being pretty much all that's left of the medieval
Tall and
tower.
proud.
I
Our
don't think we
stone will
know
declare
what would
your
have been on
words to the
there
world
before the
for all
Normans built their
ages.
keep.
It
It's
is a
very
symbol
difficult
of
to dig
strength,
underneath a
wisdom,
medieval
and
tower.
You want a rune stone
The
for your
style of Forseti's Rest, I think, is it based on
Good,
slave
solid
churches
rune stone will soon
potentially?
be yours then.
De-
I am
definitely,
certain your wife
definitely.
will be
There's
delighted with
there are
the
lots
results.
there's lots of research
we are
that's
all
that's
done.
still ongoing regarding how, if and how temples could have looked like from a pagan perspective, and if some of the architecture is an inheritance from pre-Christian periods. But definitely here, the stance that was taken by the Assassin's Creed team in creating this staff church is definitely a reconstitution of medieval Christian churches.
Walking through this bit here is probably my favorite because especially all this wattle here, it looks like I'm walking around the set at Jorvik. It's basically just the same.
Yeah. Except it's Windsor here. I
Well,
think
yes.
ours is like early autumn. So yeah.
I'd say in a way it's no surprise because a lot of team members that worked on this game actually visited Jorvik Center as one of many locations, historical locations and museums that they looked for to inspire themselves and understand a bit better the time period and how this would translate into a super interesting video game. So I think they were looking to convey that color, the skies as well. They really play a huge part in the atmosphere and the feelings that we receive when we're playing these games. It's not just buildings; it's the people that are around them, their sounds, the presence of cats, as you mentioned, and dogs. That makes it lively.
It does. It
Yeah.
gives it a very kind of real feeling.
I like that you can hear just kind of the NPC, the non-playable characters, having little conversations with each other, and they're definitely talking in Old Norse and Old English, and I can't quite catch what they're saying, but I'm like, that sounds accurate, whatever it is.
Yeah, there's on every new Assassin's Creed project, there's a huge challenge in trying to reconstitute old languages. In this case, there is Old Norse and Old English, and the grammatical structure makes sense. Whereas from previous games like Assassin's Creed Origins, that was taking place in ancient Egypt, although we had words, we had written words for ancient Egypt, the sounds are missing. So I'd say it was almost total invention where the words are correct, but the sentences makes no sense.
I just wanted to point out to anyone watching, there is the Colosseum, the amphitheater we were talking about earlier. I love it. I honestly, I wish that was still on the horizon. Like, York is absolutely beautiful to look at, and the only thing that I could think would make it better is if we had one of those still.
Yeah. We are actually hoping to do an excavation to find more evidence of York's Roman past in the near future. So fingers crossed, maybe we'll find that.
That would be absolutely brilliant. We just like dig a little bit and find the entire amphitheater. Wouldn't that be great?
Hopefully find one of these statues as well.
Yes, anything. Yeah. I'm quite keen. I mean, we have to go through a whole Viking layer of stuff theoretically to get to any Romans, so who knows what we'll find.
Yeah. Hope you find a few more Anglian helmets as well, you never know.
Hopefully. Just a whole bunch of them. Someone was just like stockpiling.
Well, you made it. And it seems
Hopefully if they're
washed.
as well preserved, that would be fantastic.
I noticed just then we got a glimpse of the city walls, and I like that there's a combination of the Roman architecture, and then you've got sections where the Vikings have built parts onto it as well. You kind of get this sense there's the crumbling ruins of Roman Iberacum, and the Vikings are now kind of resurrecting the city, aren't they?
They're very good at recycling also.
They definitely are. Well, we noticed that like we have a replica of one of the hearths that we found at Coppergate, which has all Roman bricks surrounding it, because you know you're of course gonna make use of the things that are there, aren't you? Someone asks, do we think that if the amphitheater could be under St. Mary's Abbey or near King's Manor, maybe? I mean, quite possibly.
I believe those both are suggested locations. There are quite a few possible locations for the Roman amphitheatre. Pretty much anywhere there's a historical monument in York we've not been allowed to dig is a possible location for it, yeah. I'm sure there are some Roman archaeologists out there who know much more about this than I do. Yeah.
Yeah, someone says, we just chatted. Yeah, we unfortunately can't really knock down King's Manor to find out, but you know.
For example, under York Minster, we know the remains of the Roman Principia is underneath that, and a little corner of it is on display. But we can't knock down the Minster, unfortunately, and get to it all.
I guess.
Yeah.
Not so convenient. we just very close to the Coppergate. We passed very close, but we also had the multi-angular tower that was there, and maybe if we have time later on, we can go and have a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great, yeah. Oh, so this is the other main character from the Discovery Tour, isn't it? Is it Elric, I believe?
Elric, yes. So it's in the storyline, we actually either follow Thorstein or Elric most of the time, but then in this quest, their track is intertwined, and at last, Elric finds his way in the world because he's endured much. He was in locations where Vikings were actually raiding, and he stayed for quite some time with Guthrum, the Viking leader, now turned Christian king at that point in the storyline. But he found his way. He wasn't sure when as a young man, he wasn't sure what he was going through, and then I guess something happened, and then he secured his will and his position.
I do like that the depiction of the Vikings converting to Christianity is shown in game here as well.
Yes.
It's something I think in the popular culture that people aren't widely aware of. We imagine the Vikings doing, horrible blood eagles for Odin and worshipping Thor and being very anti-Christian, setting fire to monasteries. But by the late Viking age, they're going on pilgrimage to Rome, they're building monasteries.
Well, we talked about that in one of our podcast episodes recently for Yule, didn't we, Lucas?
Yes.
It was, I can't remind me of the guy's name. He goes on pilgrimage after he delivers a polar bear, doesn't he?
Alvin from the West Fjords.
Yes.
Yeah. That is brilliant.
Yeah. He gets a polar bear as basically a Christmas present. He goes, off to Rome I go to meet the Pope.
I know, and then he had like a terrible time there. He got like really sick as well, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
There's a happy ending though, but we won't spoil it. Listen to the
yeah, you have to listen to the episode, yes.
Thorstein! I've been looking everywhere.
Oh, not him again.
I said you would vouch for me, but they want to go
Not
now.
good news.
Slow down, Bjorn. We'll talk
He must
to
be
them
cold
together.
as well. Get a longer sleeve top, Bjorn.
He tried to shame us before, so he might.
My
Who knows what
husband
he's
and I
up
are
to
on our
now?
way home.
Up to
This
no
won't
good,
take
probably.
long, I promise. Keep that delicious stew of yours by the fire, and I'll be
Yeah,
back
it's.
before
I mean,
you can lay off the
it's just
bolts.
a lack
If
of
you don't have him
self-confidence,
home before
really.
moonrise, I will come
Yeah.
and find you. You won't like
I
what
like the
happens
name
after that.
Gunhilda as well, because
Please,
that
Thorstein,
means battle
quickly.
in English.
Keep the hot
And
Does it?
you can also have the name Hildegun, so your full name could be Gunhilda Hildegun's daughter, meaning battle's daughter. Best Viking woman's name. Oh no, what
Oh,
happened?
no.
Thorstein!
Ooh. So where are we
Ooh,
now?
York's got spooky.
I think
So-
Gunhilda fell asleep, and she's waiting for him to come home.
Aw.
You cuddle him, my love.
And I don't think
He's
she's
a
having
grown
quite a
man,
good
not
night.
Yeah,
right now.
not a good dream, is it?
Slaves talk.
So this kind of hints at the supernatural elements that are within the game, that kind of lead us into the world of Norse mythology as well.
More jewels until you reflect on your
Bit outside of the
faithfulness.
scope of Coppergate Market, unfortunately, but yeah, there are some more mythological aspects to the game. It's not just archaeologically focused.
Yeah, it's why not play with these mythological beliefs, and why not show them and actually travel
Where
to
are
them?
you?
Yeah.
Which I don't think we'll go to today, but we have some of the various mythological realms of Jotunheim and Asgard that are playable in
Thorstein?
one of the upcoming quests in the
Thorstein,
Discovery
wait!
Tour.
When Lucas and I were practicing for this, we did play a little bit in Asgard and Jotunheim, and you can ride a reindeer there, and that just absolutely sold it for me, really.
Know better than to ever doubt you.
Thorstein,
No, it's
where are you?
beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Like, I love the way everything looks. It's just absolutely incredible how much detail went into everything.
Oh, poor Gunhilda.
I know.
Well, there is Forseti's Rest, that the temple where the runestone was carved on the left there, and the River Ouse flowing out east to the North Sea.
Yeah, there's the team members that worked on that created that part of the city, who are mostly based in Singapore, really wanted to show both the temple and the Christian minster in the same city to highlight that the duality, but not the good relation, but the presence of both the Anglo-Saxons and the Norse or Viking settlers. So I think that was really what they had in mind by creating the minster on that scale, and also the temple on that scale, to show both presence.
Shall we go have a look at the Minster? Just to.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah.
I think I'm headed in the right direction.
You could always turn into a bird and find out.
Well, that's true. It's about time, quite frankly.
There we go.
That for anyone wondering, I was like when we were practicing, I turned into this bird approximately every 3 seconds. So the fact that I haven't done that yet is remarkable, really. Okay, so I think I'm headed this way.
Maybe we'll find some more artifacts from Jorvik.
Yes. You'll have to stop me on the way if we have anything.
If we look at when we get to the minster, we have some of these yellow markers, these icons that we can see on the player's compass on top of the screen. But also, as we approach them within 30 meters, we'll see these huge yellow markers, these highlights, and all of these are called discover sites, and they are locations where we can learn more about history. We can really take time to compare the game and some of the artifacts that inspired the team into the making of Assassin's Creed, like this one.
I've just seen a questions popped up about music and musicians as well.
Ooh.
Harpists, courtly performers, drums everywhere. What evidence do we have about musicians, instruments, and settings? So, in terms of archaeological evidence, we do have the physical remains of musical instruments. From Coppergate in York, we do have the strings and the bridge of a lyre, a stringed instrument. Somewhat a bit like a harp, I suppose, that one. We also have got flutes made of bird bone, which are hollow through the middle. A set of wooden panpipes were also found at Coppergate.
You're missing out on my favorite instrument, Lucas. The
Yeah.
bones.
The buzzbone. So the buzzbone stretches the term instrument just a little bit, but it's of worthy of mention. Yes, a pig's toe bone that you coil up and spin around to make a humming noise.
They're the most obnoxious things. I love them. They're my favorite. So one of those points that we can interact with that you were just talking about is this one here, the Mint of Jorvik. Now I know Lucas is quite familiar with all of our coins over at Jorvik, including the dies and everything, which are pictured here. Do you want to tell us anything?
Yeah, so quite a few of the images that you see in the learning points, the codex entries, a few of them are images of our own artifacts from the Jorvik Viking Centre. Here you can see a couple of coin dies and a lead strip where somebody's hammered a coin die onto it, possibly to test that the image comes out okay. So we know that there was a mint somewhere in the city of Jorvik. The Vikings, before they came to England, did not have much of a history of coinage themselves. They were a barter-based economy, so market traders like Thorstein would be using chunks of silver or goods.
Well, and if anyone is at all interested in this sort of thing, I mean, you have to come to Jorvik at the moment. We just got the Silverdale Hoard there, and it's incredible. I mean, the coins that are in there, the arm rings, the just like the bits of just chunks of metal, really. It's incredible.
Am I right in saying that you are playing as the god Thor
I
now?
think I am, but I did not
You
make
are.
that choice. I don't know how that happened.
You're Besim. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. So one of the many avatars that we can play as.
Well, when
we're strolling outside of the quest.
When Lucas and I were practicing the other day, he was dismayed at the fact that the character I chose was a professor. But I thought it was fun having this guy in like a blazer running around Jorvik.
Yeah, but Sean Hastings in his tweed jacket,
Yes.
riding a reindeer through Jotunheim.
Whereas now we have so Basim is a visitor from the Abbasid Caliphate. So quite a distance from York.
Ooh, so are we going inside here?
So yeah, the Vikings, we
Cannot
often think
see.
about them coming into the west, places like England and Ireland, and causing a nuisance, places like Lindisfarne. But they are, of course, going into the east as well and trading with the wealthy civilizations of Western and Central Asia. And we know occasionally a few traders and travelers come out of the Arab world into Northern Europe as well. So we depict an Arab trader on the ride at Jorvik, and I believe there was an Arab trader Thorstein met earlier as well. So Jorvik really is a very well-connected city, a trading hub, where goods from all over Europe and then Asia and North Africa beyond that could be found.
So we're in the inside of the minster here. I've actually not been in here before. This is amazing. Although now I don't know how to get out.
The way the minster would have looked at the time is actually very mysterious to us because, well, let's blame the Normans. We know there was definitely a minster here for quite a while before the Vikings turned up, and then the Vikings themselves converted to Christianity, and we know that some Viking kings of Jorvik were buried in the minster, whatever it was at the time. And whatever that structure was replaced by the Norman one, which grew into the one which you can still see today, which is a late medieval structure. So this is a really cool imagining of what it may have looked like.
Very Norman in inspiration for the team when they built the Minster. I think one of the facts that surprised a lot of team members was that we would have imagined that by taking over Jorvik or the Anglo-Saxon version that they took over, they would have removed Christianity and they would have removed the siege of the Archbishop, which is not what happened. And that's a very interesting fact to point out to that new Anglo-Scandinavian culture that we so much wanted to talk about in Discover Tour.
Yeah, we have these two cultures along with the kind of religious traditions blending together rather than being in conflicts with each other. And I'd imagine if you've come from Norway and you see a building like this, you'd be like, wow! Yes, please. I'll happily come to sermons here.
I'm going to... How do I travel? This one. This is what I want. I can't figure out how to get out of the building, so I'm going to cheat.
I think you'll probably be over the building.
Oh, cool.
Hmm.
But you can still jump, and don't worry, he's not gonna
Ah!
get hurt.
It's a proper Assassin's Creed position, isn't it? Great.
Oh, I love it.
It's worth pointing out that you can't die in the Discovery tour, in case viewers are wondering.
Which is really good to know, because I have definitely put that to the test really when I've been playing recently.
Yeah, it's really meant for everybody to try and use a controller and visit one of these games, which are, I mean, usually it's for gamers with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but with Discovery Tour now we are reaching a much broader age rating with Peggy 7, which means that basically everyone can use it. It's used widely in schools and in institutions at various levels. I mean, it's quite an interesting way to learn about the Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, to really visit the time period and complement that kind of experience with a museum visit, or, I mean, obviously also read a book.
No, definitely. I think like this is the perfect way to engage young people with like the history of the Vikings and everything. It makes it more tangible to them, really.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the other chapters, of course, take place in the south of England as well, so you learn quite a bit about the Anglo-Saxons. I believe you play as Alfred the Great for a short period of time as well.
Indeed. I mean, I guess for many students 20 years ago, they wish they had done that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even decades before.
Into primary school, that would have been amazing.
All right. So I think I'm on the city walls here now, aren't I? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
You should be close to the multi-angular tower.
I think I
Oh, let's
am.
go see that,
You're
yeah.
a bit over it.
Where am I looking? Okay. So, aha.
There we go.
So that's
So the multi-angular tower can still be seen today in York. It's in a park called the Museum Gardens. And it's one of the few, pretty much the only actually, I suppose, surviving bits of Roman architecture you can see above ground. It's amazing to think that Vikings would have walked past it 1,000 years ago and gone, oh, Christ, what's that?
Is this it? Am I? No.
Yeah, if you you'll get there, Miranda.
I
If you
know. I feel like
walk
I'm
around or jump over if you jump over the wall on your left,
on
you'll
my
get there.
left. Okay.
Yeah. Seen that huge and long
Ah,
house?
yes.
If you jump below the fortress, you'll get there.
Whoop. Is it this one here? No.
Just behind you. You are so close.
I know.
It's a shame we can't ask directions from the NPCs.
I know. I would
They
use
don't
that
ignore
all
you
the
right
time.
away.
So it's that the white marker, the now white marker, because we've engaged with it, and if you turn
Halfway.
180 degrees, look at there's a big gate to your if you no, it's to your left, but
To
we'll
my-
get there. To the entrance of the fortress over there.
Oh, okay. So this way, then through here. Well, should we look at this first? Oh, okay.
There we go, yeah.
Oh,
You
that's
can even zoom in with the image if you press learn more.
yeah. So that's what it
Yeah,
looks
that's
like
what it looks
now.
like. Great.
You
I
can even
walked
hide
past
the
that yesterday.
Oh, I can, can't I?
So the tower, this tower is the corner of what would have been the Roman fortress here in York when it was the city of Iberacum. The city then kind of expanded from the fortress a little bit over the river with a Roman colonia on the south side. The Roman Empire then comes to an end in the 5th century. But when the Vikings settle the city, it expands further east across, following the river downstream. And that's where streets like Coppergate begin to spring up. So the streets you've got in the city centre around here near the Minster, some of them still follow the original Roman patterns and are quite straight. But as you get towards Coppergate, they get more twisty and windy.
Shall we go this way?
Very grand. So
It is, isn't it?
yeah, very different to Coppergate here, isn't it? So it's a bit mysterious what it would have looked like here in the Viking period. Would we have had these, glorious Roman columns everywhere, and then down on Coppergate it's all kind of wattle and thatch and stuff like that? Or is there a combination of the two?
Shall we, let's do maybe, just before we're done here, maybe one more quick peruse through Coppergate, since
Certainly, yes.
I think that's somewhere. Is it? Oh God.
If you look at the quest starter with the number 7,
Ah, yes.
that is with the bridge
So
just
can
next to it.
I? How do I go there? I can like mark it, can't I? There we go, and it'll tell me to go that way.
Exactly.
Very good.
the compass.
We're only 45 minutes in, near the end here, and I'm finally getting the hang of this. But you know,
You're doing great, Miranda.
let's see. Let's see what else we can see along the way as well. I like that it's getting dark. I didn't know that it did that.
Yeah, there's a day-night cycle, isn't there? Yeah.
There's even a way to cheat if we want to get back to day. There's that function called meditation, because it's very useful to be able to cheat with time in a video game. You can
Yeah.
even cheat with distances, and sometimes go faster. I mean, we can go through England in a couple seconds.
That's
with some
quite
of
good. I
these-
wish I could do that now.
I noticed when I was playing through the other chapters as well that Jorvik, it's basically always covered in snow here, whilst some of the more Anglo-Saxon areas look a bit more summer-like. Was that an intentional choice to try and kind of contrast the climates of the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons there?
Yeah, it's another way in which with the video games we try to make sure that every place looks different and feels different, both in terms of architecture, but the kind of people that we'll find in some of these locations, and so it's a weird mix where we can go from summer down south of England, and then we get into fall, and I mean it's all reversed in terms of seasons. But these are really good markers for players to know where they're at.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a bit like
recognize the nordicity also of a location like York.
Let's interact with this, shall we? What is this? Oh, the fashion.
Oh yeah, that's the Pt.1 brooch, I believe. There. Yeah.
Oh, you are correct.
Yes. Thank you.
It's a very interesting example because that's typically a mix of both cultures. It's a real Anglo-Scandinavian mix type of brooch.
This is what I was looking for earlier.
You found it.
I
Well done.
finally found it.
Cornerstone.
The cornstone is my favorite, which it might not be everyone's. It doesn't look the most impressive, but I think they're so cool that you could properly make your own flour and everything. And I'm obsessed with that fact that you told me the other day about cornstones, Lucas. What was it?
Repeat that for me.
The fact you told me the other day about cornstones.
Quernstones, yes. So we found quite a few fragments of quernstones from Viking Age sites like Coppergate. They've all been broken up, it seems. We do have one complete one, which was found at a nearby site called Fishergate, which was reused as a post hole, it seems, by a later builder. But around the 12th century, so we're looking at after the Norman Conquest, the quernstones in your own house seem to practically become illegal. You're supposed to go get your grain ground up at the Lord of the Manor's estate and pay a tax for it. So the Vikings were doing it on the cheap, free at home. And then some Norman law goes, no, I'm going to do it, and you're going to pay me to do it. So it all gets smashed up.
I love it. Is there anything else that we want to look at today? Oh, someone asked a good question. They say, what eras separate that brooch, the one that we saw that picture of, from the tortoiseshell brooch?
So the tortoiseshell brooch, that's a style worn exclusively by Viking Age women, and tends to be, we're talking quite early in the Viking Age as well. We don't find huge amounts of them on dig sites here in England. The fashion seems to just fall out of fashion, basically, once they settle the area. So possibly it's one of the things when these two, the Anglian and the Scandinavian fashions fuse together, it's one that just doesn't make the cuts. The brooch that was seen on screen, the Pt.1 brooch, is a very, very late one. It's either late 11th, possibly even early 12th century, because the Anglo-Scandinavian culture, of course, does continue beyond the Norman Conquest. So two different kind of ends of the Viking Age. It's always worth remembering, I suppose, that this is a gigantic period we're talking about, isn't it?
Ooh, okay. So we have some amber on the screen just here, and I think we can put a picture of some of the amber that we found as well on there. There we go.
Yes, I think we do have a picture of our... There we go, yeah. Our
Yeah,
lovely amber pendants.
The one on the left is from the game is a carnelian.
Oh, is it a Cornelian? Oh, fair
Yeah,
enough.
so they trace it back to India.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very, I mean, it's so fascinating to see the vastness of the networks and the train networks
It
of the time
definitely
period.
it shows like how far and vast the Viking empire was really, and like one of my favorite things that we have is it's the dirham from. Can you tell us about the dirham, Lucas? I can't remember
Yes,
exactly.
so we've got a range of artifacts that were found on just that one street, Coppergate, and they represent trade all over Europe. We've got a seashell from the Red Sea near North Africa, and a few goods that come from Asia as well. And one of which is this coin called a dirham. So a dirham, for those who don't know, is a type of coin used in the Middle East in Islamic civilization and the Caliphate. And this particular dirham seems to come from the city of Samarkand, which is in modern-day Uzbekistan. And I think it has in it the name of Ismail ibn Ahmad, who was the ruler of the area at the time. But interestingly, it's a fake dirham. It's not. It's a contemporary Viking Age coin. It's just not a real
It was
silver
yeah
coin. from the Middle
counterfeit,
East.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's
So
so fun. I love that.
you can imagine that if you were a trader somewhere here like Jorvik, you're going to know the local currency very well. But someone presents you with this exotic coin, it looks a bit weird. You might go, yeah, that's probably genuine, but they've just painted it silver.
That's amazing. Does anyone? I'm looking at the chat now. If you have any questions or anything before we sign off, go ahead and type them in now. Is there anything that we should have a look at, either Lucas or Maxime?
Well, I think for our conclusion, if you'd like to make your way across the river again to the
Across
south
the
bank,
river, I can theoretically do that.
yeah, you're basically going to where the train station will be built in about 1,000 years. That's where I want you to go.
Yeah, you can either use one of the bridges, swim. It's a bit cold.
I found out by accident last time that you can swim. I thought I was about to kill the unkillable Viking in the Discovery Tour.
So here we are on the Ouse Bridge again. So crossing over to where Micklegate is, I suppose.
It seems like people are quite excited about the prospect of another live stream. So hopefully we can do that again in the future, guys.
We'll have to see, yeah, maybe. So I'd like you to head to your right.
To the right.
There's just something that I noticed whilst we were researching this and playing through it. That because the city of Jorvik, of course, is very, very big. By its height, a little bit after the date we're seeing here, there are about 15,000 people living in the city. And I was quite surprised that I've actually struggled to find Viking toilets as I've been exploring the city. But I think I did find one. I think it's somewhere around here. I think if you go in that direction.
This way? Okay.
There's a house somewhere, and I just liked this scene particularly. I think it's a toilet.
I should have known that's where we would end up, Lucas. I think we also have.
I'm intrigued. I didn't know that.
I think we might have a toilet-related picture to queue up for our viewers. Let's see.
Somewhere around here. There's a house, and there's a building outside of it. It might be up those steps potentially.
Let's have a look.
At Jorvik, we do have a depiction of a Viking on the toilet. It's quite famous. He's been struggling.
Is it a graffiti?
It's a building just outside a house, and there's a woman knocking on the door, looking a bit desperate.
Oh, here she is.
There she is. Yes, I believe. Is that supposed to be a Viking outhouse?
It does seem like it, doesn't it?
She keeps banging on that door and banging over, and there's a man inside it, just by himself.
I hope it is. Wait, can we interact with it? Open door. Oh, hello.
There he is. He's not got his trousers down though,
Thankfully.
but maybe it's for kids, I suppose. This. So.
Can we put up that picture of? Yeah, there we go on your screen now.
So along with our depiction of a Viking toilet on the right, this object that's popped up on our screen here is one of our most famous artifacts, which has not been depicted in the Discovery Tour for very understandable reasons. The world's largest fossilized human poo. And this came out of a Viking's bottom about 1,000 years ago.
I don't remember that the collection offered it that we included in the Discover tour. So
That's fair enough. That's
very
awful.
very
I'm
happy
so
that
sorry.
we find that out now.
It's most people's absolute favorite artifact, and how can it not be? It's amazing.
And I suppose some of the food that we saw on Coppergate Marketplace probably is based on the evidence we have found within our fossilized poo known as coprolites. I just wanted to mention toilets and poo at the very end.
Yes,
there.
yes.
But I actually love so much about bioarchaeology and how it has made us evolve our vision of the past, and I mean that's part of it too.
It definitely is. It's one of the more fun parts, I think, really. On that note, guys, I think that might be time to wrap up. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully we do this again in the future, so my newfound skills aren't going to waste or anything like that. But I can't thank you enough, Maxime, for joining us and telling us so much about all of the amazing effort that went into this game.
Thank you so much for the invitation. If you allow me for a little bit of self-promotion.
Of course.
Discover Tour is both a standalone game that is available for purchase, but it's also part of as a free extension to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And this weekend there is a free weekend to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla on all platforms. So it's a good moment to actually play both the games at the same time for free.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
It's been great having you. Thanks for all your insights on the game.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.